So, good evening to all of you. Welcome to the Palais Brogna. Welcome to the World Forum, Forum 030, zero poverty, zero carbon, zero exclusion. So it would be a wonderful evening that is dedicated to youth, climate and media. So we are here to have fun. So let's have fun now. So I know that some of you were already here today for our first day in this forum. Maybe some of you missed this fantastic day that we had today. So I encourage you to come tomorrow. But be aware that it's very difficult to organize a forum of such a big forum on the first school day today, and in a period where we were facing COVID. So it was a bit difficult, but we had a fantastic program. We had fantastic speakers. And so we had many people, many both in the room, but also online. So thanks to all of you for being here. So tonight, so as every year, so we have a great evening. So that is our 13th forum. So we have today, we have a youth evening, but also a media evening. And this year we decided to merge these two topics so that the history are really dedicated to youth, and so that they are facing this real crisis, which is a structural crisis, which is a climate crisis. So youth, media and climate, that's what we want to talk about today. Could you please tell those who were not here today, how do we move from the World Forum to the Forum 30? How do we move from there? So from today, this is a convergence. So I wanted to thank Spark News and Make Sense to be here with us tonight. So this forum changed a little. So we had 12 Convergence World Forum. Convergence, why? Because there was a convergence of the stakeholders, because we all think over the building work, and we all thought that we are stronger when we are all together, and it will allow us to go further, so that the Sustainable Development Goals are also inclusive, and we made us so our goal number 17, which deals with partnership for sustainable development. So we try to accelerate the agenda of the United Nations. So we did that So we've done that for quite a lot of years, but this year we decided, with the sanitary crisis, with the climate crisis, to put the end before the means. So in fact, the end is more important than the means or the resources. So we are no longer kind of promoting the partnership with the stakeholders. So now that is not the emergency, really, because the stakeholders are more mature. So the emergency is now the 30, so zero carbon, zero exclusion, and zero poverty, so that we can combine the environmental and the economical impacts. So that's why we changed this year. And this year we are the International 30 Forum. So please do all come tomorrow for the second day. There will be lots of topics and issues on solidarity and commitment. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. We want to know how young people commit themselves, in particular on the climate issues. So as Thibault said, we are not alone for this organization. So first of all, we wanted to wish you a very nice evening So what I want is really that you had great fun today. So maybe you'll find your partner also tonight. But so have fun and do meet your partner tonight. So, but my purpose is that when you leave this room, you are really committed. You recommit yourself and you're ready to enter this new venture. So I'd like to welcome Vianney. So we're very happy to welcome you. Yes, so good evening. So my name is Vianney, and if you look at what I'm wearing, you can imagine what I'm going to be tonight. So today I'm supposed to be friendly, and some of us are organizers. So I work for Make Sense. I'm 28 and very happy to be here. And very happy to to be here and to be live with you. So thank you very much, Vianney, for you to be here. As you said, so you represent Make Sense, who is a partner for this evening tonight. So we also work with Spark News. As we say, we want to give the floor to young people who mobilize themselves, who commit themselves. So that's why the media are here to talk about and to tell us how we are working together so that we can make a change. So we are not alone here. We are here because we are happy to work on a UN project, which is One Planet for All, which is funded by the Commission, so that we can organize events about climate, about youth, young people commitment. So if you are so I invite you to follow this Youth Weekend movement, which is present on social networks, so that we can extend this movement, which we are creating today. So talking about Europe, so I would like to welcome Mr. Pierre Moutereux. So he's a European MP. I'm very happy to welcome you. So I was going to talk about the climate emergency and the real need to commit now. So good evening to all of you. Pleased to meet you. I don't know if you really need me to remind you about this virus. I'm very happy to be part of this forum because 3-0 is really the meaning of our commitment. Zero carbon, zero poverty. So it doesn't mean that we are here to save the planet, because when the dinosaurs died, in fact, the planet continued to exist. So our purpose is not to save the planet. So our motto is really to make everybody happy and everybody to live happy here. We cannot accept having people excluded or people dying because of the heat or people living in poverty. I was in Bamako in Mali sometime, and it took me some time to recover really, because so we are talking about climate AIDS. So climate change will cause as many deaths as AIDS. So our objective is that everybody can live happy and in a happy world. So our purpose is really human dignity, not to save the planet. So, and that's why it is zero poverty, zero carbon, and zero exclusion. So I try not to remain young. And luckily, I'm working with young people, so it prevents me from getting old. Some people, in fact, stay young all their life, and so are really committed to fight. So about 2 years ago in Madrid, there was a COP25 in December 2019, and I had the pleasure to meet very important climate experts who made very important discovery about 30 years ago. So Hervé Le Treut, who is a teacher in Polytechnique. And both of them were really depressed because they both said that they were very, very pessimistic and much more pessimistic than 10 years before. And so the only thing that were really brings them hope was the youth commitment or young people commitment and youth movement who are really waking up the politic circle. So this morning I was in the European Parliament, and there was a plan which is a Green Deal. At the moment it is discussions, but so in fact with all the movements in the streets of young people that so that was one of the objectives of Biden also. And this was due to the fact that there were thousands of young people in the street who really made a fuss in the Congress. And so that young people have already won some victory in the United States as in Europe. So that climate is now a priority. So now this victory have to be transformed into action. So thank you to all of those who went in the street to defend these ideas. So on October the 10th, there will be a great event, and I hope that in France we will be also visible. So you asked me to remind people about the problem. So if you are here, it's because you are all convinced. So today I left a letter at the European Parliament so that the climate expert can be heard by all the European MPs. So, and in my letter, I just included two designs, which is just showing that the problem is getting worse and worse. So here we can see that the figures have doubled in 10 years. Another drawing show that in spite of all the speeches, nothing has been really done. I don't want to have long discussion with Mr. Macron. So. But when Mr. Macron said that it is unfair to criticize because France is doing its maximum and we are on the right way, unfortunately, this is wrong. These are the figures by the High Commission on Climate. If we just take into account the CO2 produced in France, although we are making some efforts, it has been reduced. But if we look at China, there are absolutely no progress, no improvement in the carbon balance sheet of France for 20 years. So at least with the virus, the emissions of CO2 has slightly been reduced, but the forest, the fire in the forest have increased so much so that even when economy is not working, so 440 victims in the fire in Australia. So when I was younger, for example, in Siberia, it was very, very cold. Today, they have been fired in the forest in California. So as you can see on this drawing, or the forest fire for 1 year in California. And in 2020, 1/3 of the surface which have burned is in 2020. So even when the economy is very low, the fire are such that the CO2 is very high in the atmosphere. So, in fact, the figures show that in 2020, there have been absolutely no improvement. So for April, from April, so plus 2.16 ppm, that is 3 more times than in the 1960 when we started measuring the CO2. So there is a huge emergency to accelerate in this. So I still have 10 minutes because actually the clock is not working. So, so in fact, so to win the battle, we need 3 types of change. So personal changes. So I'm limiting, for example, my consumption of meat. I never take the plane, even when going to Madrid or to Lyon. We went there with a train. So that is a personal commitment. So that is also a common commitment, and also we need political commitment. So I've been European MP for 2 years now. The European Parliament asked me to be a reporter for the budget. So I just let 40 young people get into the Parliament who really made a fuss. So I was blamed for that. And in spite of that, I was appointed a reporter for the budget. So I managed to build a consensus of 60% of the European MP signed a petition, so that saying that we need billions of euros to help farmers, millions for billions for isolation, for house isolation. So it's not by increasing the price of the petrol that we will save the planet. So there is no magic wand. There must be a carbon tax at the frontier, and so we have to tax speculation. So where we could get the most money is actually the speculation tax. So last time there was a crisis on the financial market in 2007. So there were 14,000. So the economy is really in a very bad shape. But the financial market are very, very high, 3 times higher than before. And there is no tax on speculation. As you know, we all pay VAT. When I bought my telephone, I paid 20% for the VAT. And so even to eat, even when you live in the street, even to eat, you have 5.5 for the VAT% of VAT. So even poorest people have to pay. But for financial market, there is no tax, 0 tax. So we are asking for a 1% or 0.1% tax. And on speculation, so that will bring 60 billion euro every year if we had this tiny tax.
Comme à Paris, à Grenoble ou en Italie ou en Pologne, on ait de l'argent pour que chaque famille puisse isoler sa maison, que chaque village.
So in fact, the idea is that everybody can actually isolate his house. So Nicolas Hulot just resigned because he said Mr. Macron is very nice, but in fact he didn't give us the resources or the means to act. So for the speculation tax, in fact, France is the only one which is actually blocking the process, because even Angela Merkel in 2014 went to London to ask the British to actually require this speculation tax. And so Merkel said that, reminded that she was the first one to create the climate forum. So I think that we have to really rock the boat so that decisions are made. So German people all agree with that, but unfortunately French people do not help us.
So there was a report from the Energy Agency, International Agency. It's terrifying, this report. They say we have to stop immediately the fossil investments. The situation is so tough that the International Energy Agency says we have to stop immediately the fossil investments. And 3 ministers said, let's stop all the fossil investments. The minister, German, Luxembourg, Belgium, 11 ministers says, yes, we can stop them. And to insulate also everything, so we'll be able to live well without all this. But the France doesn't give a damn and refuses. Even the state council said, well, you know, I just showed at the European Parliament that we can get 70% of the deputies together to agree, but Macron, we're just wasting our time, and I am really committed in the plenary, in the primary, because we have to really change our private lives, commit ourselves to NGOs. The Pope even said we have to do a revolution, that money is the idol, and the Pope is someone very polite. He didn't say it's shit, as one of my kids would say, but what he said is that this system is the devil's hand. And what he says is like we should have non-violent revolution and we all should take to the streets. So I really invite you to think about the popular primary session, and I invite you to think really hard about that. Thank you very much. So we'll have a few questions, and let's just see. Stand up. We'll just gauge the temperature of the room. I'll ask people to stand up. Yes, everyone, please stand up. This is the moment we don't like too much, but I love that. So very simply, I will make an assertion. If we don't agree with that assertion, just sit down. If you agree, you raise your hand very high, and then you sit down more. The less you agree, if you don't agree at all, you sit completely. So, do you first trust our generation to change the world? And so I have a majority of hands up. New assertion. I'm very optimistic with what's happening. I'm optimistic. Oh, okay. We don't have many people that are optimistic. Okay, there's a small group over there. And I'll gauge the temperature. You talked about 3 levels of commitment. One, your personal commitment, NGO charity commitment, and then a political commitment. So let's see who's committed to all these different levels. Who is personally very... Clap your hands, and the more you clap, yeah. So I like to be applauded too. I am committed in associations. It's almost more than personally committed. And I'm politically committed, less, okay? Even less. So it's a little less loud. Do you have small questions? I'll only take 2 or 3 questions. Some people are in the audience, so I don't have time, but I spent a lot of time with NGOs, associations, and I don't decry, but when this associative commitment, but being a politician takes a lot of time, being a deputy. So is there a criticism against Pierre not being committed to NGOs anymore? At the back, thank you very much for your speech, and thank you for having talked about these 3 types of commitments. And what I feel more, I've created a media called the Épivert, and I help young people find jobs. So I want Pierre to ask you, do you think another axis could be real jobs that we can build, or skills that we can make to face the new transformations we are going to face. Yes, of course, we only have one life, one can tell oneself, and it's not only just going to school, going to university. You need to have a real fun job where you don't feel schizophrenic. And there's lots of young people who say, I'll take 6 months, even if I only eat pasta and tomato sauce. I take 6 months to commit myself to climate change. One guy I met recently, he said he's going to stop his PhD and he's going to commit somewhere and travel for the climate. So at some point, I think we need to have the courage to take these, to make these commitments. So I had a very interesting job. I was a consultant. They told me, well, that I needed to stop talking about social issues. They said, if you want to be a big boss internationally, you can do it. We support you. But I realized that, that my of course, that wasn't my commitment to be the big boss and millionaire, and I left that, and I am a lot less wealthy, but I know lots of people also who are bankers who are completely schizophrenic, and when they talk amongst themselves, we have dinner together. Internally, they're very sad. I found for myself, the taste of living again, and you can't have fun all the time, but it's important to party occasionally. And it's, I think you need to be cohesive with your own value, and you can be very happy in associative commitment. Thank you so much. And so is it incompatible to have a good pay and a committed job and do something politically, Well, I was very happy to be a consultant for a while. I understood how companies work. You don't have to choose drastically, make drastic choices, but at some point it's difficult to work at Total or other multinationals today. There's lots of young people who get out of university and they say, I won't work at Total. And there's also human balance, There's somebody who's in my team and he wants to just work 4 days a week. And that's really important for life-work balance. And you need to keep your personal balance, and you need to keep time to live outside work. And that's why I'd like to talk to you about the 4-day week. So I see the counter. There's still 2 minutes. So short question and short answer. So you choose. One hand raised there and another there. That's 2. Short questions, short answers. Hello, Pierre. I had a question around communication. You talk a lot about bankers or people who have decided to commit themselves. I'm thinking about Bon Pot. He's one of these persons who decided to be a whistleblower. How do you see communication around these topics? How do you communicate all these without being a greenwasher? How do you see it so we have some impact? So young people are there, of course, but how do we touch the older generations without accusing them? It's not a matter of blaming someone. We're all collectively responsible. We have to be cohesive in our lives. And I think youth have a real social role to play, a responsibility, because they are less disappointed by the political people. They have the energy of youth under 30, and they realize how serious the issue is, and they have the courage to envisage positive situations. And then they go back home, they talk to their parents, to the elder generation. As soon as they see a politician and they had enough, they zap. And if it's their a son or daughter that comes and they talk about climate and they tell them their solutions, that a working week of 4 days a week is possible, that can help the elderly to move collectively together as well. So if you come to the European Parliament, I'll welcome you. You can see in my office the Berlin Wall, and many young people, you know, really destroyed that wall. And I was a student at, I was a student in agronomy and in Sciences Po, and the Germans would say, oh, it's going to stand for a long time, this wall, but it's not. It didn't happen because it happened in like 2 months. And Václav Havel, his text is very beautiful, and he said, you know, the people really woke up in an extraordinary way, and each of us can change the world, even if they are not important. And we can see that the ones that destroyed the wall are essentially young people. Yes, there was Václav Havel, but these are mainly young people who said, I can't stand the system anymore, and they went and destroyed that wall. And behind that there were Helmut Kohl and Gorbachev, but the young youth was really leading this. And we have to go against this system that leads us to collective suicide. I meet all the ambassadors and they all tell me, you are right, Pierre, you are right. And Greta, Nuna, all these, Angela Merkel said she's tired because she was interested in the politicians. You know, usually when you go to see a politician, they welcome you for 5-10 minutes. She spent an hour and a half. She said, well, I'm tired. There's the banking lobby, and so we need the lobby of youth people that reassures, that says, there are solutions. And once I said, well, in theory, it's fine, you know, there's no issue. I said, but really, we can get out if we're collectively responsible. So the climate is the ultimate emergency. We have Alain Juppé, the Pope, Francois. We had even Freemasons. We had left and right politicians. So climate can unify people, and it can create 900,000 jobs in cities and in villages. But there's 5 million unemployed. Everyone who says that what the growth in France, this is growth in the last 50 years. So when they say, you know, vote for me, growth will come back, this is not true. Look at what's going on. And I'm showing you Germany. This is growth. Can you see the evolution over 5 years? And this is the reporter for budget. I used to go twice a week in Berlin, and I remember the Bundesbank chairman, 18 months ago, they said, well, Germany is falling back into recession. And well, what recession, what happened? What saved Germany from falling into recession are the immigrants. If it hadn't welcomed 1.5 million Syrian refugees, So it's really important to get to this plan, have 4 days a week, working week. And if the company goes to, falls into 4 days a week, they will pay less social insurance for their employees and will be able to create 1.6 million jobs. We need to be thousands to commit ourselves to social justice and climate. And I've come here to find allies. Thank you for these words, Pierre. We're going to have...
we will change the program slightly because, in fact, Pierre spoke longer than expected. So we are going to have a round table about the medias. So let me welcome Anissa and all the Spark News team, and I give you the floor after Angela Merkel and all these drawings. So thank you very much, Vianney. Sorry for this change in the program, but there are trains, and so one of the person who was supposed to attend, unfortunately, is blocked on the train in Rennes, and so she's very sorry not to be here today. So Stéphanie Germain won't be with us. So my name is Anissa. I'm working for SPAC News, and I'm working for the deployment of our media program. So I thank Convergence very much for this evening. We are very happy to meet people and to talk about topics which are very important for us. So today, Marie-Luce, so you are working for Sud-Ouest, and George Bozzi, you are working for the Dauphiné Libéré. So do you know EBRA? So EBRA is all the newspaper in the east part of France. So they are the. So we're going to talk about media, about youth, and about climate. So for all of us, it's a commitment which can be both professional or personal, and which for which we are very enthusiastic. And so fortunately we have all these media talk a lot about these topics, and not only in the environmental part of the newspaper. Unfortunately, I can't see you very clearly, so I will just ask you to raise your hand when, if you agree with me. So it's unbelievable, many people with masks. So if I say climate and media, do you think that media are doing too much about it or not enough? So too much, raise your hand. No? So you think that the media are not doing enough or not enough? Yes. Okay. So Marie-Luce, I think you agree with all these people here. Yes. So I agree, I fully agree. When preparing for this meeting, I asked the person in charge of documentation in Sud-Ouest, so, and she's committed to environment, for she's been working on this topic for 20 years, and so she has a blog in Sud-Ouest, and which unfortunately remained somewhere in the web, but we don't know where. So I asked her to just to get the information of how many articles were published every year, articles about climate and environment. And so she found that in 1994, there was 5,550 articles. In 2019, we had 49,120 articles. But where I was shocked is that in 2020, we only had 32,000 articles. So, and after 9 months in 21, we have only 2,512 articles. I think that there is some paradoxical aspect here, that is this pandemic, because in fact, took all the media, and so invaded all the media, so that very important topics as this one are just forgotten, are just left aside, which is really surprising, because during all these months we said, so we are preparing for the world of tomorrow. But in fact, the real thing is, when talking about the quantity, so it's not here. Okay? So first of all, so thank you for welcoming us. It's very important. The daily press is very important. Local daily press is very, very important. And so thank you for welcoming us here and for letting us participate here. It's important for us because we are older, but we are still here and will be here for quite a long time. So if we can be here for a long time and in a good shape, that will be great. So I'm working for the Dauphiné Libéré, and in the Hébrun, I work for an edition which is called Here We Act. I'm going to talk about the Dauphiné Libéré, which is a newspaper which is published in the Alps. And in the Alps, we're talking about glacier. So it's also a sanctuary which is really damaged and which is downgraded more and more damage. For 20 years, if you just want to check what can be said, so there are figures. So I heard, Mr. Proto, what you said. Of course, it's real. We can see it with our eyes almost every day. In the Dauphiné Libéré, when we talk, it's just to noting or to mention things. So, and these are very, very sad, in fact. So talking about the number of articles about environment, so we had this supplement which is published every month, published by the Dauphiné Libéré, Le Progrès, le Journal de Saône-et-Loire, les dernières nouvelles d'Alsace, l'Alsace, le Républicain Lorrain, Est Républicain, and Vosges Matin. So we are the first press group in Europe, and we decided to commit ourselves by publishing this supplement or complement, so which deal with a local solution in order to solve the problem, because the solution is with each of us. So those people who do isolation for their house or so. So for example, when we collect lavender, so we have a big mower, and so when we are using the mower, in fact, we are killing bees. So we just have to put a kind of little arc in front of the mower. And in fact, it moves the plant, and so the bees fly away. And in fact, bees are very important. So that's what we are talking about. And this little thing that we put in front of the mower makes it possible to protect bees. So that is really the issue, that is quantity versus quality. And that is very important, and that's why we are all here, and we all gather around a common program. So with other stakeholders of the press, so we had a meeting where we all proposed solutions. So that is the first time that there is a supplement at this scale and on this topic. So, and for us, it was very important because we talk with groups, with other groups, great press group. And thanks to you, we really exchange. And it was very good that it was on this subject. So as there was a lot of press, representative of the press, so here it was not a question of competition, but really gathering around a cause that we really believe in, thanks to you. Because you brought this moment to, and even emotionally, so when we actually manage to work all together, it's very, very important. So what was also fantastic is that in the territory, so whether in cities or in the country, we feel that something is happening. We can feel that. In the underground, there are lots of initiatives which are fantastic and which actually announces things that will allow us to live differently with another mentality. And we can feel that. It's very important. But this particular moment that we are talking about now allow us to gather all these people and to put that in the forefront. And so that was extraordinary. We were working for Sud-Ouest. You are in the EBRA group. But we could also exchange articles so that all the readers all over France could see that it's a whole country which is actually moving in the same direction, and that's how we want to see it. So now back to the audience, or back to you. So I think we've all heard about the GIEC report. For you, the news on climate, is it really anxiety, or is it a booster to commit yourself both in the professional and personal? So is it really an anxiety every morning? So yes, some of you are quite anxious. Or is it a booster for committing yourself? So what is fantastic is those who are anxious are also boosted. So it is fantastic. I think it's a bit both of them. I am both anxious as a media representative. We are obliged to report about what is going on and what is worrying. And we also have a duty to put in the forefront what is appearing, what is positive. So in Sud-Ouest, that is, we had a project, or we deployed a project in our magazine, which is published on Saturday, so which is called The Region Otherwise. And so the article, so that is people who sow. So, and the idea was to look everywhere, to search everywhere in the territory, and in particular in the rural environment, because it is seen as a circle where there is a sanitary crisis, where there is where nothing is moving. But in little villages, there are places where people are doing things. So when we talk about zero exclusion, that is strong, and so we try to put in the forefront those people who are in the association circle, and they are doing amazing things, but unfortunately we do not talk about them. So there is a silence here that we want to forget, and we want to put them in the forefront, and that's very important. I think the applause are bigger and bigger. So what can we do so that the climate subject or topics are not anxious, or do not provide anxious? In fact, we cannot pretend that it is not serious. We cannot reassure people just to reassure them. So our objective is not to sell more newspaper. When we are talking about a topic, we have to be aware of the fact that the daily press, the local daily press, in fact, is living or is dealing with local issue. So when we are here tonight, we understand that action is not an exclusivity; it must be shared. So when you are somewhere, you have to measure the point. In fact, so yes, we can see that, but then, once you have seen that, we try to demonstrate that if we can actually reach at least one reader, even on a topic which is meaningful for him, then we will have reached a goal to some extent. So fortunately, we have the opportunity to talk to many people at the same time. With a smartphone, for example, we can also reach people, because the local press can also reach people through the smartphone. So if we succeed, if we manage to talk to people about these topics, our objective is not just to make them anxious, it's just to talk to people. So if they become aware that we will have reached our objective. So now we will have a quiz. If I tell you, I dream that one day the people, the powerful people and the media consider the climate crisis as a real crisis. Who said that? So, Martin Luther King Jr., Greta Thunberg, Kanye West, or José Bové? So who said that? You think that Kanye said that? No. So nobody raised hand. Greta. Do you think Greta said that? Yeah. José Bové. So all the other, you think that it's Martin Luther King who said that. So in fact, it was Greta. Greta is one of the person we talked of this morning, today and this evening. We talk a lot about her because she's really the speaker for media generation. There are many young people in the territory who are not necessarily here today. So how do you see the mobilization of young people about this climate issue? Do we talk about Greta in the territory in France, in regions? Yes, we do. We do talk about or speak about Greta. Young people are really mobilized. Many in the student circles. There is great mobilization. In Bordeaux, there is one girl which is called Pierre Benguigui, and she has a national responsibility. So my dream is really to let Camille Etienne take the lead. I think we are not doing enough as to give the floor to young people. I think we have to do it more. Georges, talking about giving the floor to young people. Yes, so Greta Thunberg is a kind of unidentified object because she spoke very little, but in fact she was heard. And so when in fact she was given the microphone, we know that we realized that she had a lot of things to say. So she's speaking really frankly and openly. So when you've been in politics for 30 years, we are surprised when we listen to her. So she really kind of lit a candle, So on September the 15th, in our supplement, we have a barometer about how people feel about the carbon footprint. And so for this barometer, we interviewed 10 persons, and in particular 10 young people. So some of them are engaged and committed. So there is a representative of an association in Alsace who say what should be done. So he has some experience, and he explained that if he wanted to be a very good pupil, he would have to live in a cave. And it's very complicated, but nevertheless, so we have to fight and to do the maximum. So there is another one who is in the high school, and he said, his secondary school, in fact. So I just kept the rushes and to see what could be kept. I should have shown you. He has a way of speaking. He's about 14 or 15, but he has a rhetoric about the subject, which is just unbelievable, which is really rich, a motivation, there are arguments, there are figures. I don't know if he's a good pupil or not, but if he's working on one particular subject, that is this one. So he just saw how Greta Thunberg talked, and he thought, okay, I can do this as well. And so young people do speak. And so I think there are many of people like that, very young people who are really skillful, a lot of talent, and I'm sure we're going to hear about them in the years to come. So I would also like to add that in the daily, local daily press, we have. It's a bit difficult to reach young people because. So when we are doing articles, they do not necessarily read them. So our idea is to take them and bring them to reading the press through other means. For example, through action that we are going to conduct. So we are organizing at the moment a day in Bordeaux, which is called tomorrow the Meeting for Progress, which is a continuation of a great event that we organized in Latché about François Mitterrand property. We gathered a lot of people coming from many different background, and so we organize this kind of day, which are free, so as to bring young people or to urge young people to meet us in Sud-Ouest. So we're going to teach them, for example, to write an article, so that in the end, maybe they will start to read the press, really. I just wanted to add, I don't know what your level of personal action is, but I mean, do not hesitate to address the press. So please do come to us if you are committed. It's a topic which is really serious, and we are all concerned with it. When you act, please do contact the press. Maybe there are many people living in Paris. In fact, the thing is that it's a bit more difficult because in Paris there is no local press. But if you are in the country or in a different region, there are agencies in every town or in the region. So it's really a strong. So if you know people who actually have initiatives, so please do not hesitate to go to a press agency and ask to talk to the manager and talk to them, because it's very important, because it's a very good way to actually promote your action. So talking about the commitment of young people, there are also young journalists. Do these young journalists did it bring something to you about this transition subject? Yes, of course. These young journalists are looking at us as dinosaurs, but environment, climate. So they are, yes, much more concerned with how to talk to people, talk people who are excluded. They are more concerned with social issues. They of course are concerned with the climate issues, but they are more concerned with social issues, and I think it's very important too.
I agree. Youth is not homogeneous. Not everyone has the same life and same commitments. If we have young journalists that come to us, they're quite committed, and they look at life and the world and how things proceed. And what interests in us is their agility, their flexibility when they react to all the different media, and this sensitivity they have for real media. And I think it's more, it's just more, it's scarier when you're 20 what's going on than when you're 60, definitely. But things don't stop, so they have this awareness, and we need to stay neutral and objective, but not everything is homogeneous. You are committed, but a lot of young people are not. And there are young people who just don't care. And maybe that's an issue, but thank God some of you are here. You are here. And I'd like to get back to a subject that we have not really dealt with. The Spark News solution journalism is something that we've looked at for a long time with a big program. We had different media share 50 different solutions to a certain problem, but we have also West France, Voix du Nord, Midi Libre, and we have created together this program we were talking about earlier on, Enquête de demain, looking for tomorrow. And the question was, what did it bring you dealing with this topic? And what worked the best in your publications? Well, I haven't looked at the consultation numbers on the web, but it was great because it was very diverse. There were stories of tiers-lieux in some strange places with inhabitants, 88 years old mayor, incredible guy, totally energetic, and that just built some stuff. And there were also topics on the sea that West France published. I'm trying to look for an experience that was very interesting, but what we saw was a huge diversity, bringing up many different solutions. So committed journalism is something that's on the rise, and Nice Matin had an extraordinary title. They launched an operation, and they were the first one to do this, around solution journalism. And they said, well, we have 3 topics. Which one do you choose? And people voted and said, this week, I want you to talk to me about bees. And then the journalists would just, for several weeks, research it and would come up with articles. And I think they continue doing this. And what we realize is that these topics in the press really worked really well. And the solution is there. So that's quite new, this way to process things. It's been 5-6 years now. We bring you a solution, tell us the problem. And lots of people read these kinds of stories. And we see that it's growing, and it's being really, it stays in their memory, these stories. So in the press, we never talk about trains that come on time, and there's a trend to go and see what works the best and to bring examples. In regional press, of course, it wasn't too much what we like to do. We never talked about trains that got there on time. We were covering different little stories.
On a fait ensemble.
What we did together with this supplement, In Search of Tomorrow, we had to dig deep in our memories to see small projects that we had mentioned and just research them, and then we had to go and see it and explain why that would work. And so we realized that we had covered a small subject. Well,
Et dans le détail, et vraiment regarder et faire son travail.
so, you know, there were projects for raising fish, for example, why that was so important. We don't realize that to save the planet, we need to create new industries. And we need, so that family that created a big factory, but they actively contribute a very ugly, building, but they propose real solutions, alternative fuels, for example. And one thing I preferred, and that was a school that is quite special. The children are outside at school in class, so they're very small. When they talk about vegetables, plants, they're outside and they see the food grow, and they do all kinds of things. They do geography, history outside. But when they're in the earth, in the soil, and when they're told this is your environment, and when you see things grow, then your point of view changes. So that topic really worked well, and we were very successful on the internet as well. These kids really got close to nature. It was a huge success. And there was another subject, Midi Libre. This was called a company called Raincop, which is a competitor to the railway network. They're going to produce railway rails, and from Lyon to, because this is open competition now, it's going to take 7 hours, but the train is going to go very slowly, and you'll be able to go through all the deserted little cities, and all those cities that were empty of inhabitants, they're going to be able to relive again, thanks to this slow rail transport. Because at the moment there's no other choice. The only choice is to go through a speed railway. So cities can be resuscitated through train, and then we can take time just traveling. So, and at the end of the year, we'll start this project In Search of Tomorrow again. And my last question for you tonight is about digital or face-to-face. Well, everything is free. You don't need to subscribe to papers. Yes, that's great. We all agreed to put everything for free, open source, actually. And I think that we need to work on digital, and the main thing, of course, we need to find solutions, work on different, and we need to bring about solutions to reduce anxiety, but I think the shape and the form is also important. I was talking to someone at Figaro, a journalist who does extraordinary work, and if you're on the net and this is not really shaped well or printed well in an attractive, readable, attractive way, it needs to be done also. 30 seconds, George. I'll be very short. The young people, you express yourself on social networks a lot. That's good. So what can we do, us, the regional press? Maybe what we can do is listen to you more. And if we do that, we'll have done a lot.
Merci beaucoup. Merci pour ces interventions. On va passer à 4 jeunes personnes.
So now we're going to have 4 youngsters come to the podium, and we need to see what the story of young people is. And those volunteers have 5 minutes each to pitch for their story. So you can come up here. Don't hide behind the tables. Julie, you'll be starting. And then there's... so happy pitch to you. Great, thank you. My name is Julie, happy to be here. I'm not going to be very original because I'm going to ask you questions and you'll have to raise your hands. This morning a colleague came and told me, I saw a survey, 84% of French are anxious about climate change. And are you members of these 84% stressed French people?
Majorité quand même. La bonne nouvelle, moi je me suis dit, ok, bon, on est inquiet, on est stressé.
So, yes, we had the forest fires and things like that. What is the solution? So my solution is to act concretely, collectively on territories. And that's why it's linked to the round table. But I had a second question about territories. Do you think it's an essential way to act nearby, around? If you think it's true, yes, raise your hand if you think it's true. And my last question is, do you think that young people on a territory have their word to say and can act locally? Great. So I've asked all these questions because it gathers really all the questions of the network that I'm heading together for Earth. This gathers all the student associations, and so that they act on the territory. We have 60 associations, and we want to federate, pool these associations together. And the idea is that if we're at the collective level, we'll go much further. And if I'm in Toulouse, there are many student associations, Solidarity, Environmental, and we'll go and see those associations and tell them, great, that's good, but if you sat together, all together from the different universities, BTS, IUT, and you act together around the table, I think that would change more things. And we support the students to act in this manner, to work around the table together and to act locally. So we were talking also about all this. We work with the press, and in Toulouse, for example, students mobilized for the climate, and
ben, ils se sont bougés pour que la fresque du climat soit obligatoire dans tous les établissements de...
So she's speaking too fast, and so it's impossible to translate. So I'll summarize. So they're very good. They've organized walks for the climate. They created an ecological guide. Then in Nantes, recently, they went in front. They harassed deputies. They went to ask them what they're going to do about the new environmental laws. They really concretely committed themselves, and this makes sense. In Saint-Étienne, they created shared gardens. In Saint-Étienne, they had a conference for 3 days to incite young people to debate and to commit. So you are all part of the solution, and it's by working in cooperation that we can get some results. We've worked a lot with La Dépêche. It's essential to work with the media, and so that it really focuses on our group. We're really passionate about being alive, and we're going to continue with those projects. Thank you, Julie, for this pitch and the concrete aspect to it. So we're going to continue with Pensez l'après, and this is from you. Yeah, I'm only 24 and this is what I created. I'm Stacy, I'm 24, and I'm here because I'm a climate activist and I'm a journalist. And so when you think about activists, you think about someone who wants to save bears. But for most of us, it's something that is born within ourselves, something that moved us. And this is something that grew. It started when I was 19 because I started suffering from an inflammatory chronic disease. My life became complicated. So I started going to doctors. They said, we don't know what you have. And I started just seeing what I needed to see for myself. I questioned if I was eating normally, moving as I should. And so I started doing that. Then I looked at my environment and where I was living. And there's one thing I didn't tell you, is that I really was born in a very small city in France, 15,000 people, and there was a petrochemical plant. And so we had the second highest rate of concentration of pollution, fossil pollution. And so this had an impact on health of the inhabitants. And there was a survey made, and we realized that we had double rate of cancers in our city. So I thought, okay, that's all wrong. As an inhabitant, why did no one made me aware of the impact of this plant? Why do the authorities, public authorities, do nothing? They're behind their offices and they don't care about small people like us in the south. So the second thing was, how do I change things? How can I have an impact on changing things? As Pierre Leroux did. So what I did is I decided to do a master degree in Sciences Po, and I decided to protect the environment and deal with health instead of just looking at profits, benefits. And so for me, I went from, what happened was the lockdown, and we were alone, and I needed some information. So what I did is I switched on TV, not BFM, but other channels. There were debates with experts that I admired, but a pandemic hits everyone. So if I choose someone in the room, I won't play the game, but no one will say that they haven't heard of COVID-19. And when we heard these experts, their speech was totally disconnected. Unless you were in the elite and had gone through Sciences Po, you wouldn't understand what they were saying. The only thing we heard was the impact on economy and in the impact on health. So there were millions of deaths. We never talked about international relations, policies, and I decided to create a series of webinars, and I invited Nobel Prizes, Laurence Dugana and other people, Even though I had no training in journalism, I was asking very down-to-earth questions. I was completely depressed and I didn't know what to do. So this little initiative transformed into an association. We're now 25 of us. Some of them are here, Anna, Constant, Ariane. All these people have contributed to this project, and we were media from the beginning. We wanted to inform people because that's really where the power lies. And we realized that we also needed to act. So what we're doing now is that we're developing several projects. We're going to have our internet site in September, and on the 25th of September, we'll have our first event after a year behind the screens of our computer and Zoom. There'll be programs so you can commit to things. So we're going to first talk about intensive agriculture. What is the agroecological transition and how we can make that a reality. And we'll ask you to commit yourself to a citizens' commitment pathway, which means that you will attend some information and you will attend some practical workshops and information sessions, and you'll have to start changing your habits. And this is the first program you'll have. It's called Élysée Mission 22, because in a few months we'll have the elections. We have the elections, and candidates are really speeding towards the door, and I can tell you your vote can be useful. We could have 2,000 or 3,000 votes that can make the difference, and we can make ourselves be heard. We can widen the field of collective action because youth has to be taken into account. And if you want to mobilize yourself for these two programs, don't hesitate to join me later on and to give me your...
Tu veux que je prenne?
Yeah.
Ouais, t'en peux plus là.
De ne pas prendre exemple sur elle.
So, please, Maxime, it's your turn.
Bonsoir à tous et à toutes.
So my name is Maxime Leroux, and to be honest, I was not really concerned with the climate change. But some years ago, I understood and I realized the negative impact that we have on the planet, on our future, and on the future of the next generation. So I said, what can I do in my daily life? So I thought about it, and I realized that we could do something. So I had some what called gesture, so little challenges, which actually worked. So, but then I said, okay, if I'm alone, I do not have the impact, a real impact. So, in fact, the idea was to find people who really wanted to change the world, but who didn't know where to start and what to do and what to do in their daily life. So I created an application, so with a prototype, which proposed to have one eco gesture every day. And after 1 year, we were more than 10,000 people having tested and used it in the world. And we had an impact because suddenly every user could see the effort, its own effort, multiplied by the world community. So when I'm talking about an impact, which is one safer day, so we have a direct and indirect impact. So the direct impact is just a result of our actions. So, for example, reduce carbon emission, saved resources, and the indirect impact, and that's very interesting, is that by doing those gestures, you adopt new ones and you transform your own lifestyle in an eco-responsible lifestyle. And that was my case. Many people say that individual action are not really useful because the industries or companies or the politics must change. I agree with that. But nevertheless, studies show that by doing individual action, you also influence people around you. And we influence them naturally to change or to evolve in their behavior, and so by adopting a more eco-responsible life. And so when you start changing the people around you, you also change the behavior of our society, and that's where companies and politicians will react and adapt to the demand. So after this year of testing the application, we had quite a lot of positive feedback, but also feedback which showed us which was the functionality which were necessary to be more active and to adopt this eco-responsible lifestyle. So at the beginning of the year, we developed a second version of One Save a Day, and Pierre Quentin, the president of, say that Jane Goodall read an article about One Save Day. And he said that the project was interesting because it's a practical, the reality about every gesture is important, and if we all act together, if we gather, then we can make the difference and change the world. So that is with the support of Jane Goodall today that we want to develop this world movement and help thousands or millions of people to adopt a eco-responsible lifestyle. And today I'm here because I'm really looking for new partners, and we actually launched this complete version on iPhone, and a version for Android will be launched in the weeks to come. So if some of you want to convince more people, I invite you to download this application, and then we'll meet on the application. So we'll finish with another initiative which also appeared during the lockdown. So Lorraine Miller. So good evening. My name is Lorraine, but I also have some questions to ask you. So please do stand up if you recognize. So have you ever said, I'm committing is not for me, I don't know how to do that? So commitment is not for me because I have no time. Okay? Okay, so some of you thought that. So committing myself is not for me because there's no point and I cannot change anything. Yeah? Yes, we know the stake today are really anxious. So the GIEC report, the fire this summer. So just I just wanted to switch off my phone to escape all of that. So it's easy to say that you are nothing, that you cannot change things alone, and that we won't do anything because the politics are not going to change, etc. I'm not here to make you anxious. I think that we are all friendly here, and I'm here to tell you that whatever the reason you have, the reason to act, you are right. Whether it is to be useful, to meet people who share the same value, all these are good reasons to act. Because if we are all acting together and collectively, then we'll have an impact on the politics and environmental policy today. So studies show that citizens can, in fact, be responsible for 1/4 of the reduction of the carbon emission. So, in fact, the crisis showed that we are quite a number to be willing to commit for the environmental issue, but we were very numerous not to do how to do that. So our idea was to help and to support people to choose and to know how to act. So our association So today has about 20 partners. So Greenpeace, Zero Waste France. So it's a 2 weeks program, and the objective is to help people commit on one of the issue, which is here. So climate, newcomers, sustainable food, and homeless people. So how it works for 2 weeks, you meet 15 people. So it starts with a Zoom on your sofa. And then it ends with concrete action around you. For 2 weeks, you will receive 1 mail a day with information on the issue you choose and with suggestion of action that you could do around you with kits, So you will have also a WhatsApp loop, and you will be supported also by somebody who is here to help you and support you. Every 3 days, you have a call to talk about the actions. Did you succeed, or why did you fail? So the idea is really to support you and help you. And after 2 weeks, so everything is okay, you will have understood the stake of the issues that you have chosen, and you will know how to actually take action. And so at the end of these 2 weeks, you will have made more people aware, and people who will desire to help you. So then 15 people will be more people. So if you feel joining us, please do. There will be a new program on September the 12th, and so you will have a call directly on your site. And I hope to find many of you, to meet many of you on the next session. Thank you very much for your presentation. So I'm going to speak now. I'm sure that you all have plenty of stories like that. So I'm sure that you are all waiting for this little snack that we'll have afterwards. So everybody knows Together for Us, etc. But in real life, we will have to face people who are not really convinced of all these issues. So what I propose to do is to have a kind of collective immunities face to the people who are skeptical about climate change. So I'm just going to describe some scene that maybe that you have been faced with. And so just my idea is just to, well, it was a bit complicated. So the idea is just to see how you will react and how you will reply. So you are in a BlaBla car and coming to the convention's evening. So could you please tell me the name of a BlaBla car expert? So Bernard, yes, so Bernard is going from Angers to Paris. And so the first question is, what do you do in your life? And so we are 3 in the car. And then the discussion generally starts because I am an engineer and I'm an IT engineer, so you have nothing to answer. Or I am a student in law and I don't know what I'm going to do later on. And so the last person say, I am consultant, etc. So nobody then speak any further. But then the question is, what are you going to do in Paris? And you say, well, I am going to the Convergence Forum, because we are acting with other people for climate change, etc. And then Bernard, who is driving like that, you see? And he looks at you and he say, well, smiling, because you really think you're convinced with the climate change? Okay, so this is skeptical. So the first sentence he will say, I don't know if you watch the news, it was -1 in the Alps. So global warming, no. All right, so and then he smiles. And then you will think about 20 seconds to reply to that. You have, so well, what will you tell to Bernard, okay? So what are you going to tell him when he say that there is no global warming because it was very cold last night? So what will you tell him? So just one sentence. Okay. So I would just say that the weather forecast does not reflect climate. There are two different things. These are two different things. Well, very nice. So there is a difference between climate and weather forecast. I wouldn't say it is global warming. I would say it is a climate deregulation. Take note. Another idea? Yeah? So I think it's important to have concrete examples and to sing about flooding or about the water level coming up. That is exactly what you have to say to Bernard Bébert. So there is a difference between weather forecast and climate, which is a statistic science. You can also explain that about climate deregulation, and we also give him concrete example. There are many things, right? So Bernard, yes. So another scene now. So you are in the housewarming of one of your friends. So what's his name? Bart. Okay, Bart. Great. So we're going to the housewarming, to Bart's housewarming. And very often when you get there, you say, oh my God, the atmosphere is terrible. So, but unfortunately, it's too late. You are here. So then you feel that you're a bit alone, so you directly go to the buffet. So what is typical of a housewarming buffet? There are pizzas, okay? Okay, small pieces of pizza. So you eat a lot of them because you're a bit stressed, okay? So you are here in front of the buffet. So you are here in front of the buffet, and you only eat peanuts. And then there is a friend of yours, a friend of Bart. You say, why don't you eat pizza? And you tell him, well, I am a vegan, so I do not eat meat. And so Lucien look at you, and you try to explain, but Lucien tells you, well, don't panic. Technology, scientific will just overcome these problems. So technology is going to save us. So what do you answer to Lucien, who is definitely skeptical, climate skeptical? Yes? So I will talk about rebounding. So every time, so there is an acceleration of back practice, so which will have more effect. So the rebounds effect. So in fact, that is the rebound effect. Bouncing effect is really important. So something else. So Lucien is eating a pizza with ham while listening to you. Another proposal, technology is going to save us. So we could say that each technology has a cost in terms of resources, energy, money, and so we are in a finite planet, and so but the resources are not finite. So we have to be very careful of the money we spend, the resources we spend, and so we have to choose less consuming resources, because all this has a great impact on the environment. Something more? You can also say that technology allowed intensive breeding, so that breeding of animals who are in systems. So by eating meat, you know, they will get ill. So thank you very much for all this suggestion. So rebound effect, we can use the environmental or an ecological backpack. So that is a quantity of raw material you need to just to manufacture a smartphone. So there are, for example, to manufacture or to produce a smartphone, you need lots of kilos of raw material. So we finish now. So, okay. Another scene, okay, another. So it's Sunday lunchtime. So the family table, and so the family lunch on Sunday. So there are ravioli with truffle. So your father is very rich, and so you are talking all together, and suddenly the questions rises, what about your future? What do you want to do in your the father say, okay, he's going just to take over the company, the family company. And then you say, no, unfortunately, your company has a negative impact on the environment, so I'm not going to take over the company. So the father is a bit disappointed. Your mother, okay, so in fact, it's not really your father, but it's more the uncle or aunt who are kind of climate skeptical. Okay, so your aunt is called Marine. Okay, let's go for that. So Auntie Marine. So okay. So and she says, please listen. So climate change has always existed. If you look in the past, Greenland was green 1 million years ago. So that's natural. So we cannot do anything about climate change. Okay. So what do we do with Tata Marine? What do we tell her?
Je lui répondrai.
So I will tell her that Earth has actually there have been a global warming in the past, but now it's getting much more quickly. So nature has no time to adapt to this global warming because of the rapid change. Another suggestion, I will say that yes, there have been global warming in the past, which led to the extinction of some species, and so that we will die soon. And then Auntie Marine will just look at father and say, oh, is it true? So I will ask her what she studied. And so if she did not study science, then I will say I would say I prefer to listen to science experts. Another suggestion? So to complete, to talk about the extinction of species, so dinosaurs did not survive to this global warming, and we are not as strong as dinosaurs. So that's a very good suggestion. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vianney. It's at the end of it. Thank you for joining us. So let's go upstairs and share a drink and a snack. So, and just try to share a drink with people you don't know, so that you will meet a new friend, and maybe you will commit yourself with them in a new association. So it would be great to try and meet other people, and stay with us so that we can continue. And thank you for being there.
Félicitations, j'en peux plus.
Par là sur la scène pour une photo de famille, s'il vous plaît. Venez tous par là. Petite photo et ensuite apéro. Ah ouais, si.